Welcome to our final here at the Pace Credit Union Canadian Classic 2003. We got a great encounter between David Palmer from Australia and homeboy Jonathon Power. Originally from Toronto, residing in Montreal right now, but this really is the final that we've been looking for. I'm joined by Charles de Sainte Marie. Charles, good evening.
How are you doing, Martin?
Not too bad.
Good. This is going to be an incredible match. These two fierce competitors, they know each other quite well. Not total fans of each other either.
Well, obviously, two world-class sportsmen, great respect between these guys. I don't think there's too many beers being shared.
And what is the record between these two players? How many times have they met?
I don't have a statistical analysis with me right now, but I know that Jonathon really has got the upper hand on David. David has been successful a couple of times. The first time in the British Open in the year 2001, he scored a great victory for the first time. That was when David Palmer was actually ranked about 8 or 9 in the world. He scored that victory. And since then, he went on, obviously, to become world number 1, world champion, a British Open champion. He's had a great career, and that was one of his best results at that time. But really, his wins against Jonathon have been few and far between, and the ones that he has had, he's really tussled them out. He really is a tough competitor, this guy. He likes playing against Power. He's a physical player. Jonathon also a very physical player. And that's why it produces fireworks whenever they play.
Well, they're two big guys. Take up a lot of room in the center of the court.
Well, David Palmer probably about 3 or 4 inches taller than Power, but I think Power probably just as wide, if not wider, than David Palmer. Has the ability to volley the ball. Also, one thing that Jonathon Power has over David Palmer is his ability to kill the ball out of nowhere. And his great deception, quick hands, quick feet.
His shot-making ability never ceases to amaze. And his deception, like you said, he'll hold on to the ball, show you one thing, and produce another.
Absolutely, that's one of his trademarks. It's a thing that's really got him to be one of the best players of his generation.
Turning into a bit of a marathon rally. Very tight, there you go. Tightness pays off this time around for Jonathon Power.
Well, he started pretty well, taking a 4-love lead. He's defending champion here. He also won the tournament in 2000 and last year, 2002, so he's going for his hat-trick this time.
How much of an advantage does the home crowd play when you're the hometown favorite? Does that play a lot, or is it really just more of an internal focus?
Well, I mean, when you practice, you're practicing on cold courts, and sometimes in the middle of your club in the dead of winter. It's, you don't really think of playing in your home court. You're actually just honing your game and your style. But I think it obviously does play a little bit of a part in this. David Palmer and Jonathon Power have won tournaments all over the world. They've both been very successful. Jonathon obviously more so than David in recent years. But I think it's probably, in this situation, it's probably worth a couple of points a game, but not really much more than that, if that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And David, he's a contentious player, actually. He likes fighting against people's opinion. That's one of the reasons he became such a good player in the first place. I think he was told when he was younger by a couple of coaches at the Australian Institute of Sport that he wasn't going anywhere. And I think that actually spurred him on to become world number 1 and world champion. You can't become much more successful than that, really.
Nothing like a good challenge to bring the best out of someone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just gives you extra motivation. And it's good to use these things to fuel you, Don't get bitter about it. Don't get mad. Get even.
Incredible cross-court nick from John Power.
Oh, Jonathon telling David that it was up. It certainly sounded down.
1-5. What? No, the ball's not down. The ball's standing there. It bounced down. Sorry, man. I haven't even hit my whole life.
John Power saying he's never hit the tin in his life.
How can you tell it's down? It's not down.
Well, I think Jonathon's using this opportunity. He obviously thought the ball was up, but he's using this opportunity to smile a bit. And it's no pressure at this stage. He's
Simply
5-1
introducing
up, 5-0
himself.
Up he was. Basically, yeah, just letting the crowd know, letting David know that he's around, letting the referee know. This is his tournament. This is the one he likes to win. So we noticed Jonathon in his semi-final, one of the best matches I've seen recently, against John White. Previously lost to John 3 times in a row, John going for his 4th victory in a row, and I thought this Jonathon, he dropped down the rankings a little bit to number 4 in the world for a former world number 1 and probably the most talented player of his generation. That's quite a drop, really, and I think that's probably one of the best matches I've seen him play in recent years, as he really is back up to top form again.
Well, that was great, solid squash, and again, he's keeping true, showing great form in this match as well, not giving an inch to David Palmer.
Well, David Palmer was there. He asked for the let. Well, not getting it, denied by the referee. Probably quite rightly. He probably should have just stuck out a racket and stretched for that one. Oh, and that's a good shot.
With authority, slammed it into the nick on the right side.
Great timing. Slices it into the neck. Well, I think that's David Palmer's best area, high forehand. And also the forehand from behind him there. You really don't want to be hitting the ball too much to that area of David Palmer's game. Keep him in the backhand. He likes stepping forward in that backhand as well. He really knows the combinations of the game, David Palmer. He reads it very well. Or reads the patterns of play very well. I don't know whether he actually reads the different options very well.
Little mental lapse. I think Jonathon probably meant to ask for a let there, but launched himself forward and played the ball.
Well, I don't think that's the first time we'll see that kind of scenario in this match. I think there's going to be quite a few lets. These guys, they really don't want to relinquish their position in the middle of the court. David Palmer standing in the middle, Jonathon wanting to take a direct path to the ball in the middle of the court. He doesn't want to move to the back of the court at all. So I think that's going to happen a lot. It's the guy that maintains their concentration and wants to win this match the most, I think, is going to end up the victor.
But rightly so, neither player should have to relinquish their position if they've earned it in the center of the court.
Absolutely right. If they've earned it, then good luck to them. You should hold it.
Palmer given a let there.
Yeah, I think that was a fairly standard let. Jonathon obviously had the position. He forced a loose shot, but he really didn't play a great drop shot. It was a good foot above the tin, as that one was as well. You can't expect an athlete of David Palmer's caliber not to pick that up.
At this level, Martin, there aren't too many balls that these guys can't get to, right? I mean, it's got to be something like that where you see it'll stutter right in the nick, right in the crack, and not come out.
Well, as Jonathon's body went lower, he just pushed his racket in and carved that ball dead in the front backhand corner. But you're right, there's not a lot that these guys can't get to. You've really got to rely on totally outpositioning your opponent or just frustrating them, because these guys are such good athletes. Even up until the 5th game, they're still going to be running.
Great shot.
Jonathon's not known as being a great athlete, which is actually very untrue. He's an incredible athlete. Maybe he doesn't look as much of an athlete as the other guys, but the engine inside him and his legs just propel him around the court.
And the heart.
Yeah, incredible heart, yeah. He's got an incredible will to win.
It's a good use of the left wall here.
Just his footwork going into that. It might be quite unorthodox, but he's just like a ballet dancer. He's got incredible stability with his small muscles. I mean, he really can balance on a sixpence, this guy. I'm sure he can turn on a sixpence as well, but balancing
But
is just as
can
good.
he do that on a loonie, though?
Maybe a toonie. Well, let's be. We're being kind.
Another long rally.
Well, I don't know who that kind of rally favours. I mean, it's just pushing the ball about. No one's really gaining the ascendancy in that sort of rally. I think probably it favours David Palmer. I would have thought. Jonathon likes to control the game. He likes to feel as though he can hustle the rallies. Those medium-paced rallies really don't suit Jonathon's style at all. Maybe just a slight twinge in his hip or his lower back.
Big pace, takes the pace right off. David Palmer covers incredible amounts of ground just by stretching out.
It was a mistake, but there's no way we got that.
Well, bit of chaos there. Not a great shot from David Palmer. Played it very low, but it definitely came out into the middle of the court. Looks as though Jonathon started pretty well here. He's hitting a better length. David Palmer doesn't seem to have too much conviction in his shots at the moment. Maybe a little bit of a slow starter, David Palmer. A great athlete, very strong. If you can force you into a long 4 or 5 game match, the chances of beating him are pretty slim. You've got to have a very good day. In fact, I think it's only usually Jonathon Power or Peter Nicol that beat this guy when he's playing like that. But that's a great shot.
Very tight. Not much you can do. Doesn't necessarily have to hit the crack. Just stay tight. An opportunity will arise.
Yeah, well, Palmer got his racket onto it, which is a good sign, but it was just a bit too tight for him to get up. But he's obviously reading the game well and pushing the ball in. Really, his movement is pretty good to get to ball like that, but still a little bit out of sorts here. David Palmer hasn't quite got his feel of the court, his feel of his racket yet. But it's in situations like this, if you're a little bit out of sorts, you should really concentrate on getting your backswing round, swinging through the ball.
And for a big man, he gets very low underneath that ball to send it up into a lob.
Yeah, he does.
Oh,
Not quite low enough there, though.
great view.
A great camera angle there. You saw the guys lunging into the front backhand corner. David Palmer bending his knees, but not getting quite low enough, just pinching the top of the tin. Gives Power an 11-4 lead.
Which is a commanding lead at this level.
Well, it's not often you see a top pro fresh air the ball. Someone in the back of the audience cheekily clapping there, a bit sarcastically. Charles, what do you think it means to Jonathon to win here in Toronto?
Well, in front of the crowd, he trains here, he's lived here, all his friends are watching. It's got to be, I mean, he's done it before, so to have to defend it at the same time, it's a huge ego thing, and as well a confidence booster. Great for his confidence if he can pull it off. Carry him into the next tournament.
Well, it seems as though he produces one reaction out of another within the Canadian public. They either love him or they hate him. But I suppose everyone loves the homeboy doing well, and they just love a winner. So
Well, it's certainly, win or lose, you'll always notice Jonathon Power, and he's done great things for the game of squash in Canada because everyone now recognizes him. You mention squash, and first thing they say is, "Oh, Jonathon Power, yeah." So, and that's a big step forward if you compare it to 7-8 years ago, when Power had just emerged. That was a great rally.
well, Power obviously at the top of his game right now, trying to regain a #1 position he had a couple of years back.
So 14-4 game ball. Oh, given the let. Power was on his way off to the water cooler.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think David Palmer will be quite glad to get off this game, off this court. There's always a little chance that you can come back and win from this far down, but you know, I can count on one hand how often it's happened on the Pro Tour, and as sure of form, Jonathon Power gets his stroke, takes the first game 15-4.
15-4, commanding victory in the first game. Palmer will have to step up and meet the challenge that Jonathon Power has thrown him. We'll see what happens in the upcoming game. So Jonathon Power on top of things here in Toronto. Won the first game 15-4 over David Palmer. A big surprise, actually. That's a commanding lead to be up by 11 points at the end of a game. Have to step it up here, Martin.
No, absolutely. It's David Palmer, obviously playing very well right now. Currently defending world champion. Just won the British Open for the second time just last month, so he's in great form. Not really expecting to lose the first game 15-4, but Jonathon Power didn't do anything wrong in that game. Well, the referee calling that ball down, I'm not too sure. And another point for Palmer on the board. Great boast. Yeah, I think it happens quite often in finals of major events where, you know, guys, their path through to the final is a little bit tougher than their opponent, and you know, playing their fifth game, or certainly in these events, it's a 16 draw. It's only 4 games to the final, but you know, you usually find that one guy is a bit more ragged than the other, and it really is possible. Sometimes it's a big anticlimax. You get one guy that just kills the other one. But I don't think that's the case with Palmer. He's such a strong athlete. He has the ability really to kill people off pretty quickly, even though he's not traditionally a shot player. He's a great positional player and a great athlete, very strong and fast. And he's got the ability to put people away in 45 minutes if he needs to.
Well, he's certainly regrouped in this match. Hitting 4 kills to gain a quick lead, 4-love. Been given the stroke, Power backed into him. 5-love.
Well, the pendulum swings, eh? This is what happened to Palmer in the first. He got 5-0 down, returning the favour.
So, Power on the board. Great return of serve, pushing Power to deep in the court.
That's a great volley drop.
Followed by perfect length. Can't do much against that.
Jonathon really plays this front wall. He keeps his body, his legs are always open. Like in the forehand, he goes in with his right leg. He's always open to the front wall. He really is. He's a front wall player. You know, he doesn't really use the height dimension of the court too much. He's a puncher and a counter puncher. He loves doing that with the court, using the height there right enough. But he really keeps he faces the front wall almost all the time.
Well, crawling his way back. Up to 3 now.
Well, 5-0 down, 3 points to the board. Back to 5-3. David Palmer not known for letting a lead go. There's one thing that he's actually very good at, David Palmer, is the middle portion of a game. When he gets a lead, maybe 7-6, something like that, he really concentrates on winning the next 3 or 4 points. And if he can win 3 out of those 4 points, then he's in great shape. He's 10-7 up, and all of a sudden he's really the favourite for the game. It tends to be in the 15 score, and it tends to be the area of the game where a lot of people use concentration. They put in a big effort at the start of the game, and the middle of the game becomes quite a chore for them, and a lot of people just have a bit of a lull in that time. David Palmer certainly doesn't.
He thrives in that period.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both players controlling the ball so well.
Well, I thought that was a bit of a scoop from David Palmer. Held the ball in his racket. I'm sure Jonathon will have something to say to the referee if he loses this rally, which he didn't. Great counter punch again.
Crowd showing their appreciation. Toronto crowd certainly enjoying squash. Many squash players in this great city.
Yeah, it's a big squash town. Very much a business sport in Toronto. Great clubs, such Cambridge Club, Fitness Institute, Adelaide Club. A lot of businessmen play there. All these clubs, of course, downtown Toronto, where this tournament is being played. They have a great tournament and a great corporate challenge event at lunchtimes here. A lot of companies pit their players against each other.
Squash, a tremendously social game. Game for gentlemen and gentlewomen, of course.
Doesn't feel too gentle when you're on there, I can tell you. Especially playing one of these guys.
Have you ever had any major disagreements yourself with either of these two, Martin, when you were on the tour?
I never had any problem with Palmer, actually. I mean, I reached the stage where I seemed to be beating him all the time and had his number, really. And then when he became a bit stronger and on his way up to #1 in the world, I was at the back end of a couple of losses, and Jonathon I've always had a problem with.
I don't think you're alone in that category.
Well, he really doesn't like to move away from his space and wants to occupy your space as well when he can. Doesn't like to give an inch. Works well for him. That's a great volley. Jonathon calling the ball out, but David Palmer carrying on, and
It's a hit! The ball's 3 feet out and it's a stroke!
I think that might be a slight exaggeration, 3 feet.
Perhaps 3 inches.
I think if it was 3 feet, it'd be flying into the crowd somewhere. Well, that's probably a stroke as well, actually. I think the referee was...
Well, Palmer just kept backing into his stroke.
Yeah.
Never.
Well, all the decisions going Palmer's way right now.
That's right. See if Jonathon Power can maintain his composure.
Well, from 5 left down to back to 5 all, he needed a lot of composure for that. He played great
Absolutely.
squash. Oh,
Caught Palmer off guard there.
well, you see this. Oh, strange decision. Ball in the middle of the court. Palmer couldn't play that. Referee deeming that Jonathon Power got out of the way in time, but I don't know. I wouldn't fancy telling David Palmer to play the next one. Yeah, we saw there a couple of points ago when the ball just stopped short, and that can really happen. It happened there at the back, actually. No lead. Good decision. It was nowhere near there. Yeah, it was a smart shot from David Palmer. Jonathon didn't see the ball until late. Had plenty of room to play the ball if he was there, but
There was no interference on
Not at all,
Palmer's
no.
part.
yeah, the ball catches the side wall here quite a lot and just stops, whether the front of the court or the back of the court. I must admit, it's quite a frustrating thing about these glass courts is if you clip the side wall at all, it just comes out. There we see, just clip the neck, and it really does die.
Well, all the more reason why those of us who aren't used to playing on these glass courts should appreciate their perfect, immaculate length. I mean, if their balls are reaching the back of the court, it's really because it was a perfect shot.
No, absolutely right. There are many ways you can get a ball at the back of the court. You can use power and penetration and drive the ball, or else you can lift the ball, as David Palmer did there, which I reckon with the ball moving the way it is now, I reckon is probably the best way to get past your opponent. He's trying that a few times now, Palmer. He's recognising that is the shot to play under the current conditions. Yeah, and again, Jonathon just cutting it off though. And the ball popped out. And that's a good decision.
Yes.
Jonathon sat on the ball. He didn't like to move away from that ball. It's a great movement. It's a great position if the ball goes in the net. But that time the ball just popped out. It hit the sidewall first, came right back into himself. Easy stroke for Palmer.
I didn't know anything.
Well, Jonathon looking at Palmer saying, "Why are you challenging me? This is my court."
Yes. You're on my turf. But I think that's Jonathon's demeanor regardless of the venue.
Oh, well, that was a big point. That was his route back into this game. Back to 8-10, that would have taken him if it went up, but now 11-7 down. I can't see Power coming back, really.
Certainly the way Palmer has stepped up. No more unforced errors. Solid squash
Yeah,
from
he's
Palmer.
playing solid squash here. He's hitting a better length. He's hitting the ball above the service line to get the ball to the back of the court. Taking a little bit of pace off the ball as well, which is Jonathon's wanting to take the ball very early, and just by taking the pace off the ball allows him time to get back on the tee, get settled, get composed. We see that's exactly what he's trying to do here, just lifting the ball and then hitting the ball in short when he gets a chance. It's a good tactic. It's just how long you can keep doing it for before Power's attack and hustling ability managed to get in at David Palmer's head.
That's right, and again, John Power had the opportunity, but sent it into the tin.
That's a great shot from Palmer. David Palmer playing a drop in the middle of the court. Oh,
Great hustle from Power. It's given a second chance by the referee.
well, that was a smart rally by David Palmer. He played a fantastic straight forehand drive. Power did really well to get it back. David Palmer, sensing that Jonathon would be going into the corners, played a drop shot down right in the middle. He eventually ended up a lead, but David Palmer closing out that point there with a great backhand volley kill.
13-8, commanding lead in the second game for Palmer.
Well, I always like to see these games go to 1-all. These guys are both playing well, they're both moving well. David Palmer a little bit ragged in the first game, but he came back really well here.
Well held by Jonathon Power. Palmer, no choice but to guess what he would do with that. I guess he showed him a drop shot first and pushed it down the wall.
I don't know what he showed him. I was in the forehand side by the time he hit the ball, I think. Well, simple let. As I was saying, Charles, I like to see these games go to 1-all. play that crucial third game. The pressure's on both of them.
And very often the third game will be the deciding one.
Absolutely. By that time, usually at least 45 minutes of the match have gone by, probably more. Even an hour of the match has gone by the end of the third game. And it really is the guys are a little bit tired by that time. And that's the time that we'll see the best squash.
And to be down 2-1 must be a psychological drain.
Hugely.
Knowing you have to crawl back, take another 45 minutes to an hour to crawl your way out of that one.
That's exactly true, yeah. And if you don't do it, the pressure is on the player that's attacking. Oh, that's a great shot from Palmer. Just flicking his wrist at the last moment, changing direction of the ball. Look at this. Oh, it comes right across the ball. Great shot.
So, Power, down a game ball. 4 game balls, actually.
I was actually just about to say I'm very surprised Jonathon Power stopped in that shot. He normally stops there and gets a let. Basically any situation where he doesn't feel as though he's in control, he stops.
So if you're Palmer now, do you push, do you attack? Or do you just go through the motions, hope John Power will make the mistake?
Oh no, I mean this is 14-10. It's not a huge margin. You really have to. This is when you actually need more concentration. You're not due a victory at game ball.
Perfect drop shots from both players. John Power is just a bit too tight for Palmer.
Yeah, Palmer just clipped the side wall with that drop shot. The ball popped out, and Palmer not having quite as much touch as Jonathon Power on the drop shot. But that's a nice use of the height of the court from both players.
Oh, do you just remember 2 points ago?
Oh, it was a nice shot from Power, but I don't think that was a winner. Looked low above the 10, but the ball bounced up.
We have to give Palmer a bit more credit than Jonathon seems to be giving him.
That's a great length. I think David Palmer lost the ball in the lights of the court. Was in a good position to play his favourite shot, forehand volley kill. Oh, Jonathon's moving so well here. That's a great defensive lob. Back in the rally. Oh, what a great rally from Power.
Super rally. He crawled his way out of the hole, applied the pressure, and it paid off. He's dodged 2 big bullets, Martin. Let's see if he can dodge 2 more.
Well, those bullets were the 2 great drop shots that David Palmer played, and Jonathon just... I don't know how the hell he managed to get both of them back. Oh, and he goes too cute. Just clipping the top of the 10. He was back in that game and just let it slide 15-12.
Well, 15-12, much closer than the first game. 15-4 for Power. Palmer stepping up, answering the call. Going to that critical third game, Martin, at 1 apiece. A great tight final shaping up. Each player has won a game. David Palmer with the serve to Jonathon Power to start the third.
Well, this is what we all wanted. This is what the crowd wanted. A couple of games shared either way, and then out for this crucial third game. This is when we're going to see both these guys in the top of their form. Both guys are warmed up now. They know the court, they know each other, they know how they're feeling. And this is it. This is where it all counts.
Now, in your experience, Martin, when you get into the third game, and you know each player has won one game.
Well, sorry for interrupting you there, Charles, but
tin.
Jonathon, the great flick cross court, and Palmer reading it, just clipping the top of the tin. That's one thing that Palmer does actually, is that when he's in a defensive position, when Jonathan's in a good position in the front, or against any player, if they're in a good position in the front, he doesn't back off. He actually closes you down and then tries to volley your next shot either straight or cross court. And he's such a big man that he can do that. And it would surprise you. It's not 50-50. He actually guesses right, like 8 or 9 times out of 10. It's a tactic that has worked for him. As I said before, he really has studied the patterns of play, along with his coach Sean Moxham of Australia. They've really got it down to a fine art. He's maybe not the player that you'd say has the most feel of the game, but he's really worked this game out, and he knows himself, he knows his opponents, he's studied them rigorously, and he's aware of what he needs to do to win.
At what age do these guys start playing squash? Like, how old are they when they pick up their first squash racket?
Well,
Bit of drama shaping up.
well, I don't agree with that one at all. Jonathon Power had the loose ball. He created a loose shot from David Palmer. He did hold his ground, but he was entitled to, and he hit a perfect length and width. Yeah, that's quite frustrating for him. Your question about what age these guys start. I mean, I know I started at 8 years old, about 8 or 9. I seem to remember. These guys are probably the same. It's, as a parent, what you want to do. You don't want to concentrate your kid on, just one sport too early. Otherwise, they'll just burn themselves out. They just want to do everything and everything, and just enjoy it. And you'll hopefully notice a talent for something pretty quickly. You'll realise their physique and what a rally. A little bit of a flurry at the front backhand, a drop shot exchange. Jonathon Power normally wins those rallies, Channels, but David Palmer coming out the victor in that situation.
Well, an unlucky bounce in the vertical nick, I think, brought the ball back onto himself.
Yeah, you've really got to have Jonathon totally out of position if you want to play it into the front backhand. And here he is again, flicks the ball. I would say that's probably his best area on the court. And again. Well, we talked about David Palmer closing you down when he pushes you in the front, even if he's in a defensive position. That's exactly what Jonathon Power does in that front backhand. He plays a great shot. He comes right under the ball, chops the ball down so it dies quickly, and then he just closes you down.
And he takes up a lot of room when he stretches out to get to the ball. He
Yeah,
takes up as much room as he can.
Exactly. He doesn't concern himself too much about getting out his opponent's way. And as far as he sees that, why should he? Is his shot.
John Power caught flat-footed a little bit, going the wrong way.
It's got to be said that Jonathon Power, one of his main assets is his deception, but I mean, you saw there that Jonathon played one of his little fade cross courts from the back of the court, and David Palmer has seen it so many times. He was straight onto it, hit a winner as soon as Jonathon had played it. After a while, your best shots start to become predictable if you keep on playing them.
So a let call, Martin?
Yeah, I thought that was a fair call there. By the time the ball reached Jonathon, David Palmer was out the way. And again. I mean, unless Jonathon is taking a very excessive swing, he's not going to have any chance of hitting Palmer there, I don't think. Well, we carry on with the lets.
This is a long start to the third game. It's not the critical one for nothing. Lots of drama, high intensity. No player wanting to fall behind early. Oh, great touch.
Oh, that's great width from David Palmer on his drop shot. It was a superb cut in from Power originally. Oh, and he catches the nick of the side of the court. Dies in the back. That's a great length. If you keep on hitting them there, Charles, eventually one's going to do that.
Now, Jonathon Power seems to have so many options when the ball hits his racket on the right side. Something like that quick boast, hit with strictly his wrist.
Oh, what a volley drop from Palmer. But Power's foot speed just so quick, getting that ball back. And there, his little fade cross-court worked. He got a point from it. Great shot.
Is it due to Power's foot speed and quickness that he has all those options when he gets to the ball?
Absolutely. That's very astute observation. It doesn't matter how good your racket skills are. I mean, there are guys out there lower down the rankings that are fantastic racket players, but they just don't have the physical ability to be able to compete at this level. And the reason is because he's so quick onto the ball. He arrives so early, he gets in such good position, he gets side onto the ball, and he can propel the ball in any direction he wants. At the end of the day, squash is a physical sport, or at least you need to have a certain amount of speed and strength to be able to compete at this level. And if you don't, you get no chance. That's a superb boast.
Now, in a tournament like this one, would players play 2 matches of this caliber in one day? Or is it really spaced over?
No, the PSA has a rule that you're not allowed to play 2 professional matches at this level 20 without having 20 hours rest in between. So theoretically, you can schedule a match for 9 o'clock one night and then play at 5 o'clock the next day.
Which would make some sense. The amount of energy these gentlemen have to spend.
Well, I mean, it's quite funny actually when we go away to a lot of tournaments played at clubs and maybe playing some pro-am matches as well, pro-am doubles tournaments, is that I don't think the guys really have much idea how physically taxing this level of squash is. They ask you to play 2 or 3 pro-am matches a day, you know, as well as one of these matches. It's pretty tough.
Great rally. You see Power's touch there.
Well, he comes down in that so well, just bending his back and his knees, sliding his racket through the ball. Well, from 3-1 down, Jonathon Power back to 5-3. This is a great mini comeback.
And you'll remember he had 2 or 3 calls he was very unhappy with at the beginning of this game. Great composure from Jonathon Power to bounce back. That's a sign of a true champion, is it not?
Absolutely, yeah. Jonathon's quite funny, actually. I mean, a couple of those decisions were actually pretty bad, and I've seen him lose the racket decisions that are not bad at all, and yet he handled those ones well. So I think he probably picks and chooses when he argues with the referee, when he feels mad about it.
I think that was a good call by the referee. Ball nice and tight on the wall.
Yeah, it's a tough call to make that, because Jonathon obviously in the way. David Palmer couldn't play his shot, but just so happened the ball was stuck tight to the wall as well.
Well, Jonathon Power, guess he'd have to complain about that call, but you have to give Palmer credit. He's been getting to all those balls for the past 2 games.
Yeah, both these guys' retrieving ability is phenomenal. I would say that when push comes to shove and the big points, Jonathon has got faster foot and hand speed, and he sees the ball so much quicker than David Palmer as well, that he's probably faster than Palmer, but Palmer's such a strong athlete. Trains very, very hard. He's put his life into this sport, as has every other professional athlete. But this guy is just 110% true professional.
Now, do these guys work at squash 9 to 5 like any other job, or is the timing different?
To be honest with you, I would say that squash or any professional sport is probably a 24-hour job. Because when you're not training, you're resting, you're eating the right things for your sport. You're resting in such a way, that you can really get away from squash and be ready for the next training session or the next match. And so it is always constantly in your mind. It's a lifestyle rather than a job. Just take a quick look at what's happening here. David Palmer pushes in the drop. Oh, Jonathon Power's knee just catching David Palmer in the bottom of the calf. I've had a few of those in my time, and that's not, it's not pretty.
You get to see just how quickly that ball travels from the front wall like this.
Yeah, and this glass court, the ASB court, it's very difficult to get the ball into the corners. It really is a bit of a hustle. It's a hustle around the middle of the court. If the ball hits the nick or it stays tight, then you can change that. You can really dig it into the corners, but you can't place it into the corners with touch. The glass court it bounces off there quite well. So that's what you have to do. You have to stick the ball in the nick.
And that is one of Power's specialties, known for that. Kill shots. After a great rally too, lined it up well, got a loose ball, jumped up and killed it.
Yeah, that particular situation is not actually his favourite area, really, the high forehand. He tends to keep away from there as much as possible. Gets most of his kills in the backhand or very front forehand.
Power with a commanding 5-point lead here.
Oh, he had him. He had him as well. He had Jonathon the wrong way and just flicked it into the tin.
It's a little gift for Jonathon Power, 9-3.
Well, how about this, Charles? David Palmer was 3-1 up and now he's 9-3 down. Well, he just pegged back a point there, 9-4, but he lost 8 points on the trot.
Another
what can he do with
ball.
this? Well, I think David Palmer needs to be more deadly with his opportunities. It's a bit of a workmanlike performance from him today. He's not hitting the ball too well, David Palmer. He's hitting it quite good length, but not really deadly. Severe is the word I would use. He's not severe today. Sometimes he can be very severe. He just takes you out the game. And he's certainly done that to Jonathon Power once or twice before.
We saw perhaps a future world champion there. Kicking back the bottle. Something squash players are known for, isn't that right, Martin?
Well, I don't know about that. I think any athlete, you have to relax. And I mean, it surprises me when people say, oh, you can't have a beer, you're a professional athlete, but everyone needs to find some way of relaxing, whether they meditate, do yoga, have a couple of beers.
Well, you need carbohydrates. You spend a lot of energy on this court.
Yeah, I don't think there's any harm in that, mentally or physically. Well, I'm very impressed with the way Jonathon's playing here. He's carrying on from the way he played against John White in the semi-finals. Really stepping up the court. He's hitting the ball with conviction. You can just tell in his body language that he just really, really wants to win this event. He's defending champ. He hasn't had a great year this year.
He certainly looks comfortable the way he takes the pace off the ball. Sends Palmer to every corner.
Well, it wasn't really a search and rally from both players there. A bit of a hack, but Jonathon finishing off with a nice drop and eventually ends in a let.
his eyes off the ball a little bit early. Sent it into the floor. Something I'm pretty good at.
Well, yeah, you do sometimes lose the ball in the side walls of this glass court. Just slightly transparent. Looks quite transparent when you look at it on the TV screen, but it's not quite that transparent in the when you're actually on court. The front wall does look pretty much blanket green, but occasionally you just get some people move in the crowd, and it grabs your attention.
Or a white shirt.
Yeah. Oh.
Palmer doing well to keep his composure, though.
Yeah, well, he hasn't done too much wrong. I mean, he hasn't played great. He hasn't really taken advantage of his opportunities, but at the same time, he hasn't done anything outrageously wrong either. And he lost 8 points in a row, and there's only so many players that can do that to David Palmer. Jonathon Power is obviously one of them. Well, here's an opportunity, and again, he's not been severe enough. He just needs to get in there and punch the ball. He needs to punch the ball into the net or punch the ball straight and tight to the back of the court. He's just putting the ball in Jonathon's racket after he's created the opportunity. You can't afford to work that hard. Opportunities come few and far between. You have to take advantage of them.
Now, does it show we're at a critical point in this match? How many lets have we called?
Well, I think this is you're probably right, actually. This is the critical point because 10-6 down. Also, there's a little bit of a comeback for David Palmer as well. He was 9-3 down. He's got back to 9-6 now. So any more points would be quite disheartening for Jonathon Power, really. There'd only be 2 points between them if he managed to get this one. Well, Jonathon Power's speciality, just counter-attacking with such speed, backing out into his opponent. He always tends to find his opponent no matter what way he's coming in.
And is all that intentional? Does he look at the quality of the shot he's just hit and tries to interfere perhaps to get a let ball?
It's just years and years of playing. Jonathon's been playing serious squash since he was 13 years old, probably. I mean, obviously playing junior tournaments before that, but he really was. It was almost full-time by the time he was 13, 14. And so he's played a lot of squash. It wasn't really until 1996 that his talents started shining through and started winning major events.
Oh, what a shot. It's with shots like that he won those events, I tell you.
Well, it was.
Ball came across him, never left his sights, and sent it into the opposite net.
It was one of the most exciting periods in world squash, actually, was when Jonathon came through, because his talent was pretty raw at that time as well. I mean, as we look at him now, he's still pretty raw, but I can tell you from playing him numerous times and watching many matches with him in it, he's become fairly predictable over the years. He's quite formulaic. He doesn't have too many options on every shot, or at least his options have just become quite predictable. And it's not until he's down or he decides to play an exhibition match that we actually see some of the fireworks that he used to come out with when he was younger.
Oh, I remember those fireworks. Well, it looks like with the experience that Jonathon has accumulated, he's learned that fakes and fireworks will only get you so far.
Yeah.
I suppose on the junior circuit, it did get him very far, but then he got up against...
Well, that's a great shot.
Beautifully cut ball.
Talking about fakes and fireworks, there's something there. It was a very instinctive shot. He sensed David Palmer was slightly on his heels. Chopped it short. Oh, fantastic shot. And again, David Palmer just picking that shot up. Power at 11-6. This is a tough place for David Palmer to be. 12-6 down in the third game. This is not looking good for the big Aussie.
Power's up 6 points, Martin. What should he do? Just keep going through the motions? Attack? Shoot?
Well, I mean, just don't change your game. I mean, like we said a couple of games ago, you've actually just got to really dig in. You've just got to really increase your concentration when you get near the winning post. You don't slow down. You don't go through the motions. I mean, I suppose if you think of it if you think of the game in terms of having a start, a middle, and an end, then that's really when your end game comes in. Is the last supposedly 4 or 5 rallies, 6 rallies of the game, and you really have to take the ball earlier, just increase the pace, become a little, just hone your concentration.
The ball has slowed down considerably since the beginning of the match.
Yeah, it has actually, yeah. Which makes it more effective to play that kind of shot, but there's going to be more interference as well.
It's the 3rd time that Palmer is holding that leg.
That's exactly the same place. I think that's where Jonathon caught him earlier on with his knee. So maybe after this game, you can get a bit of ice on it. You can get his physio working on it. And here comes someone now. Or perhaps this is just a towel girl.
Showing the skills.
And again, he went into it again.
Few Charlie horses from John Power.
Yeah. I was sidelined for about a month one time with Jonathon Power's knee in my left thigh. I know exactly what David Palmer's feeling here. Obviously not intentional. I think he's just desperate to get to the ball. It's just a natural squash injury when you're bending forward like that. I think I took Alex Goff out for 6 weeks one time as well. So,
well, it's certainly a strategy.
Well, you could do. I mean, I suppose in boxing that's what happens. You find a weakness and you just keep on jabbing away at it. This is maybe what Power's doing. He's kneeing his left calf. Not a bad tactic, but I think there are too many other things to think about in a squash game to think about that aspect. Well, Jonathon Power saying that he feels bad. He's not trying to hurt him. Just trying to get the ball. Well, the ball even slower now than it was before, Charles.
Brings us to 14-7 game ball.
Absolutely, certainly favours the attacking player, the player that has to finish off the game if it's cold. Could really finish off the game with short shots at the front of the court. I'm sure that's the way that the winning rally will take place. Oh, a great rally from both players. Jonathon Power digging it out the back of the court, just pushing that out. Great rally there.
Well, if you're David Palmer now, down 6 points facing a game ball, try to work your injury out, you try to work out the kinks. He's given a stroke to end it.
Well, that was a great game from Jonathon Power. 3-1 down. Pulls back, wins a great game. Very great competitor, wins 15-8. Goes into the 4th game, 2-1 up.
We're back at BCE Place. Perfect squash venue. Packed house. We have a look at Jonathon Power getting ready to serve the 4th game. He's up 2-1. Now, Martin, how often do we see When a player loses that third and decisive game, how often do we see them come back to make it a fifth set?
Well, it really depends. I mean, I think that both players recognise that the third game is a huge game.
Come on!
We,
You're giving me nullets everywhere!
Jonathon obviously disagreeing with that.
You think?
Just slightly, yeah.
Seems a bit unhappy, you're right.
Now, what I was going to say is that, yeah, both players recognise that the third game is a huge game, and I think if it's a tough game, if it ends up being a 15-13 or a very closely contested game, and the guys put all their effort into winning that game, if they do end up losing it, then it's very, very difficult to come back and take it to 5. We saw in that last one that David Palmer Jonathon Power got a big lead. David Palmer went down 15-8. And he probably feels as though it's a bit of an anticlimax, really. He didn't play great. Jonathon Power squeezed them out, and
I got that ball 10 times better than that one.
Proving his point that perhaps he should have been awarded the rally before.
well, it's not just about running to the ball. If that was the case, then we wouldn't be playing squash. It's all about position. It's all about what shot you played to put you in that position in the first place. Jonathon Power playing a couple of loose shots to give David Palmer winning opportunities like he did there. Not quite taking it. So David Palmer, as we were saying, he's both players down but not out.
Jonathon falling, perhaps pulling down Palmer a little bit. Save the ankles, you let yourself go.
And David Palmer really stepping forward onto the ball. I think maybe he's feeling that calf again. That's his injury of the day.
Definitely earning his pay today, David Palmer.
Absolutely, yeah, he's such a tough competitor. I mean, this guy Power is obviously one of the toughest competitors on the court. But he does it in a different way. He does it by what the Aussies would call he's a whinging Canadian. Not quite a whinging Palm, but a whinging Canadian, and it certainly seems to work for him. That's his style. David Palmer likes to argue as well, but he can take a lot of pain. Both these guys can take a lot of pain.
Every time I hit a tight shot, he takes interference because he doesn't want to hit a loose shot next time. I'm better off hitting a loose shot.
Well, these guys are like lawyers appealing to the judge.
I'm just trying to explain, Mike. I'm not being upset. I'm just trying to explain to you. Don't get upset.
Poor referee, don't get upset. Well, it's never an easy job to referee, especially these two guys.
Oh, at this level, there's a fine line between a let and a stroke in any club situation. This is a professional match, final of a championship. The line becomes that much finer.
Well, decisions, as much as you'd like to think that they wouldn't affect the outcome of a match, I think they definitely can. Great volley by David Palmer. Jonathon Power's incredible speed, not quite managing to pick that one up.
But Palmer, it seems that Palmer has found that extra punch, and he's got that extra spark in this game. He's all over the ball. He's volleying early, putting a lot more pressure on John Power.
Well, this is what I was saying before, was that it wasn't the supposedly crucial third wasn't actually that tight a game. David Palmer was finished pretty early. I mean, he had a big deficit by the time the middle of the game came up. And so I think he's still got a lot of energy to inflict a bit of damage and Power here.
You don't go out this way, you go out that way. That is the worst call.
Well, Jonathon Power making a salient point, saying that you can't defend back into the middle of the court. You got to defend, leaving the attacking player, the player coming into the ball, to take the middle line. I think he probably could be right about that. If you hit a weak shot, you got to take a different route.
Allow your opponent
Free
to
access to the ball.
capitalize on your mistake.
Absolutely, yeah.
Ooh, looks like he may have had power there. Just cut the top of the tin.
Yeah, that was one of Jonathon Power's shots as well, just a cut cross court from the forehand. David Palmer plays it very well from the backhand, but it's unbelievable retrieving from Power, putting the ball tight as well. Trying that again. No, here's a chance for Power. Crunches it past David Palmer.
Very wide shot.
There we see in the audience Dominik Hasek, the very famous NHL hockey player. And if you notice Jonathon Power's clothing closely, it's called Dominator. And that is Dominik Hasek's company. Jonathon Power having a line of clothing in his company.
Dive guy clothing.
Yeah.
We've seen a bit of that today.
Yeah. Well, by name, by nature, really, for Power. And I think the two have developed into good friends as well as business partners.
So is Dominik Hasek a big squash player as well? Certainly has the reflexes for it.
I think he plays. He's respected Jonathon and his career. Jonathon obviously being a world champion, the same as Dominik Hasek. He's been a Stanley Cup champion. So I think there's obviously a great mutual respect there. I'm not sure how big a player Dominik Hasek is. Probably plays squash as much as Jonathon Power plays ice hockey. How about that?
Fair enough.
I hit a tight shot. I might as well just lob it down the wall, Mike.
So each player matching the other point for point.
Well, there's nothing in these guys.
Don't let him get in your head! Don't let him get in your head! I'm right there, on the ball!
Dominik Hasek not too impressed with that decision.
Picking up a few pointers there.
Ah, it's a beautiful drop and another tight. How do you do that? How do you pick a ball off the wall like you did here and put it even tighter to the wall? What a shot! Well, that's incredible skill. That's the only person I've seen do that consistently is Jean DeLierre, the great Jean DeLierre.
Speaking of Jean DeLierre, how far has technology come since then?
Wow, it's a
Oh,
great
lovely
shot from Jonathon Power. Using his body to create the space between the opponent and the ball. David Palmer having to go around Jonathon Power to get that ball. Just failed to get it. Very smart play. Takes Power to a 5-3 lead. Oh, and what a shot. Here we see Jonathon Power getting an opening. Beautiful touch.
Little chop shot. Took all the pace off.
Well, you see the ball actually didn't nick there, it just hit the side wall. It really does, on these ASB courts, it really just stops. That's part of the tactic on this court. You really want to hit your attacking shots into the wall. David Palmer keeping that attacking volley tight to the wall.
You look at the rackets today and there's fan stringing, there's wide body, there's Kevlar, graphite. First squash racket I ever picked up was made of wood, had gut stringing in it. How much has this affected the game of squash?
Well, it's huge, obviously. The thing about, I remember I actually had a game with Paul Johnson, the next world #4 player, just recently in his club in London with wooden rackets, and you actually have to get, they're so heavy that to get any kind of swing, you actually have to time the ball better to hit it, because it's such a small face, and you really have to take a big backswing and really follow through. Now with these rackets, they're so light, and these guys' wrists are so strong that they really don't have to swing anymore. You just need to take a very short swing and snap the ball. And so I think you probably needed to be more of a pure hitter of a ball back then with the wooden rackets. You probably didn't get too many places if you're just an athlete. These days, I think you look at someone like David Palmer, he's I wouldn't say he's a great racket player. He directs the ball very well and he knows the game very well, but I think that he's just a phenomenal athlete, really. I think he'd have been a great athlete with whatever sport he decided to venture into. Well, there we see that great movement, the players dancing around each other in the front of the court, trying to keep to the middle of the court so they don't open the court up for their opponent to play the ball into. A great length from Power, forces a loose one. This is a great angle to look at these players. What a rally, Charles.
All four corners being used, all four walls being used. Tremendous ability.
Well, this is one of the best rallies of the match so far. What retrieving. It finishes on a let.
On a let ball.
Well, the referee's shown their appreciation for that rally. Fantastic. All over the court, Charles. Lobs and drops and kills and drives and trickle boasts.
And they still get to the ball. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah. Well, this is getting to be good theatre here. The crowd, oh, and like it was a pantomime. Which one's the evil witch?
Oh.
That's unbelievable volley from Palmer. He actually reached across for that backhand volley before Power had even hit it. Gets rewarded for his interception there, goes to 8-6 up.
Well read on Palmer's part. So Palmer pulling away slightly here. 9-6.
Well, all of a sudden the pressure's back on Jonathon Power. He was looking good at the start of this game. Thought that you might manage to finish off this match in 4 games. Not so sure about that anymore. A great drop from Palmer. And again, what retrieving. Well, what do you have to do against Power when he's running like that?
He's like a wall.
You've got to hit a dead nick.
And that's something that Palmer hasn't done too much of today.
No, I must admit, he really hasn't taken advantage of his opportunities. That is an unbelievable kill.
It's that chop shot bouncing twice before the sidewall.
He just carved round that. Such a difficult shot to do. He didn't place it like most of the players do. He carved round it, really bringing the ball down, using his racket strings. Incredible skill. As I was saying, I think David Palmer, he's played well, he's hit a good length, but he's created a lot of opportunities, but he hasn't really taken advantage of his opportunities. And we see in this game that with shots like that, he actually is taking more advantage than he did in the previous 3 games.
Power a little bit unhappy with himself there. I think he realizes, he feels the crunch.
Whoa, that's a brutal call. It couldn't be more of a stroke unless Jonathon hit it through his own legs.
Yeah, that's right.
Hit it right back to himself. Jumping out of the way, but yeah, that was a very bad decision. Both players hustling for that front position. Want to get their opponent behind them.
There's that chop shot again.
Yeah, he's so good at that. David Palmer just hanging on here.
Big
And
opportunity here.
again. Well, the tables are turned. David Palmer's in control now. Oh, nice shot. What a rally. Jonathon Power picks a stroke.
Great rally.
Fantastic rally. I just hope that decision to the one before that, the previous rally, is not affecting the outcome of this game, because these guys are playing great squash.
Well, Palmer certainly present in this game a lot more than the last. Seems to be firing on all cylinders. Power been steady since the first point of this match. So now the two are head to head, a true battle.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, if Palmer takes this game, then it'll be head to head, a true battle. It's always a treat when the final of a major tournament goes to 5 games, especially between guys like this. It brings the tournament to a climax. I'm sure the sponsors, Pace Credit Union Limited, will be very happy with the standard of play and the promotion of this event.
Is that a stroke, Martin?
Yeah, Jonathon just put his body in too much. Wasn't an accurate drop shot, hit it back to himself. Fairly standard stroke, we don't see him arguing with that. Gives Palmer a 3-point cushion. Really needs to solidify this lead though.
Oh, great shot from Power.
What a length.
Did well to even pick up Palmer's drop shot, and he sent it perfectly into the back corner.
Yeah, that was just a flick of the wrist as well that he won that point on. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, Mike, why should I play a tight shot when you give him a let every time? It's just pathetic.
Well, I think Jonathon Power showed he could pick up that ball.
Yeah, David Palmer sort of came back into the middle of the court, kind of nudged Jonathon out. Jonathon would have got there and just played it again. Well, this is tight squash from both players.
Oh my God!
Well, come on, guys, stop arguing after every single rally. Just get on with it.
You missed it by a mile. A mile.
Jonathon was expecting the stroke there.
Yeah, he does see the ball very quickly. He sees the ball quicker than most of the guys. He's got very quick hands. I don't know if he saw that quick enough to. Oh! Well, that was.
Referee is being diplomatic at this critical point.
I don't understand how he could have played that shot better right into the naked dive so quickly. But both these guys need to concentrate. Oh, that's a huge miss. Maybe there was a part of Jonathon that felt that wasn't a let last time. There was much conviction on that drop shot as he normally has.
Little feeling of guilt sent that ball into the tin. Oh,
Ooh.
must be feeling very guilty.
Well, that takes Palmer to 13-9, a 4-point cushion. He just needs 2 points to take this final to a 5th and final game.
And the way he's playing in this 4th game, Power has a tall order ahead. Ow!
Again, he catches Palmer in the calf. Well, this is a good photo opportunity for any photographers in the crowd. This is going to be an interesting decision from the referee.
The towel crew stepping out.
Well, there's definitely got to be some kind of initiative by the referee that stops this talk back to the referee. It's fair enough to receive a bit of information about why the referee makes a decision, but if they're point blank arguing.
Is there a lawyer in the house?
Well, I think that's what we need if this kind of talk carries on. I mean, I know you look in that replay, Jonathon went the wrong way. David Palmer didn't stick out his leg. It's because he initially went the wrong way that he banged into him. And that shouldn't really be a let. He has to go and get that ball.
Whose ball? There's no let, or he can just knock me over again. Again, 4 or 5 times. You sit there, what are you going to do for him? Break my leg or what?
Well, they're trying to get their message through to the referee, and it's not very pretty, really, is it?
Palmer feeling that it's dangerous play. I agree that it is excessive interference. There have been many collisions, not just interference, but actual collisions. And two big guys moving at high speed.
Well, I see certain factions of the crowd there cheering for David Palmer winning that point. I don't think this is anything personal against Jonathon. I think that he just felt it was a bad decision from the ref the last time.
Poetic justice. No let.
Well, David Palmer finishing off that game with a slightly colder ball. Being very smart, hitting a great length and then a great kill. Takes the game 15-10. Takes this final match to 5th game.
We're back for a 5th and final game. The crowd's certainly getting their money's worth tonight, Martin. What a perfect ending to a great week of squash.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this 5th game. I mean, the players have both had a great tournament. Jonathon Power scoring that great victory over world number 2 John White in the semi-final. David Palmer had an easier path to the final, beating Omar El Borlossi, who had a great victory earlier in the week, taking out Peter Nicol. But I think these guys are both pretty fresh here. I mean, there's a few knocks and bruises in their bodies, but they seem pretty fresh physically. Like their fitness-wise, they seem strong and fit. They're still moving well.
They do seem to have the legs, have that extra punch.
Yeah, and one of them isn't really struggling, so I think this could be a good quality final game.
I'm sure there's a good dose of adrenaline going for both of them too.
Yeah, that could be it actually, yeah.
So what do you expect to see, Martin? Will this be a gentle, low risk kind of game? Or are these both players that have enough confidence in themselves to keep shooting regardless 5th game or no?
Well, I mean, neither of these guys are really shooters. I mean, when you talk about shooters, you're talking about guys like Amr Shabana, Kareem Darwish. I mean, these guys really carve, especially Power, he carves the ball around the court. He doesn't hit outright winners from everywhere, but he positions the ball, he positions his body, he's got some great deceptive shots. He hits the shot that you're not expecting, that's his greatest asset. So I don't think, and David Palmer he actually does shoot when he gets the opportunity, but he doesn't seem to be shooting much in this match. It's actually been a bit of his downfall, especially in the first couple of games. I felt he should have really taken advantage of a lot of the loose balls he had. He was hitting great length and getting opportunities, but not really taking advantage of them, crunching the ball in there.
Definitely seemed on cruise control compared to now.
Yeah. Well, that 4th game was his best game by a long way. Jonathon Power he's still playing well. He's still playing great squash. He's playing as well as he ever has, really.
So a few quick lets.
Oh, what a shot. Just slightly came over the ball. Looked as though he was going cross court.
Certainly fooled John Power. I admit he got me too.
Yeah. Yeah, I was the other side as well.
Oh,
Well, let's try to be too precise, really.
low percentage from the back. Can't really attack Jonathon Power with a boast, can you?
No, you can't. I mean, that's something one of my favorite shots is a boast, and over the years, for some reason, I keep on boasting him, and it's so stupid. The guy is so quick from the tee to the front of the court.
That's
Probably
right.
one of the quickest guys ever, actually, in that particular region. He's so strong, holds his position so well. There is absolutely no reason ever to boast him up from the back of the court. That's a great length from Palmer. Hitting the ball with conviction. Great length from Power. It's a good rally. All Power, chopping the ball short and tight. That's the most important part. Palmer giving a loose ball. Stroke to Power.
3-all, I suspect we'll be slowly making our way up
Oh, what a retrieve.
towards 15. Neither player will let the other pull away.
Well, these guys are just moving like youngsters here. It's incredible.
Oh, it's like they just came out of the locker room.
Well, Jonathon Power, 29 years old. David Palmer, 28. These guys are not young either.
And what would you say the career of a squash player spans?
Well, I reckon that once you reach 30 years old, you got to start looking around for another passion or another job. It's such a tough game. It really is such a tough game. Not many guys last after 30. At least they don't have the best years after 30.
Is that because the body takes a beating, or is it because there's an 18-year-old Malaysian that is just that much faster than you?
It's probably a mixture of a lot of things. Those two things are definitely a factor. The young guys are keen as mustard. They really want to, they're going to run for everything. All of a sudden, the mentality that you used to have a few years ago, they've now got. You're the one that's defending your position, and you're the target. And that becomes quite tiring after a while to be the target all the time. Some guys handle it better than others, but it's. I think it's also the fact that you move on in your life. I think there are sports that it's easier to carry on having a long career. Something like golf, it's very much a personal pursuit. It's between you and the golf course most of the time.
Very much a mind game.
Yeah, it's a mind game. This one you're competing against your opponents and you're on court competing for the same space. There's only so long that you can keep that kind of aggression and confrontation going.
Certainly squash at this level is high impact, very demanding. And just the 4 or 5 big collisions that we have seen today.
Well, it was always going to happen between these two guys especially. Both guys like holding their position. They don't really like budging for their opponent. But to get through to the ball, to show the referee that they can get to the ball, they've almost got to bustle their opponent out of the way. As soon as you give an inch, then that's when your opponent knows that he's got you. Well, there's not a lot I can say about this squash. It's just very high quality. Both guys are moving the ball around the court. There's no one particular tactic that is winning the rallies.
You didn't say stroke. You didn't say stroke. That was a winner.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that decision at all, if that was a stroke, Charles.
That was a pretty generous, if he did get that stroke, that was a perfectly
Well, now he's been...
My winner, 2 points. My winner, 2 points.
Well, he's been penalised a point as well for talking back to the referee. Let's have a look at this. He doesn't clear it, but it's a great shot.
It's so tight to the wall.
Well, I suppose in these situations we do tend to say, well, it's either a stroke or a no let, and
Palmer feeling. See if Power can regroup. This is a very, very important. This is it. This is crunch time.
well, it's got to be said that I haven't seen Jonathon Power lose too many of these matches. He actually lost a similar one to David Palmer a couple of years back in the Super Series. One of David Palmer's first victories over Jonathon Power. I think his second victory over him. Came back from match points down in the third game, 2-love and match points down. Eventually won 15-13 in the fifth.
Oof. That's something you don't forget.
But I mean, it just shows you the fact that I remember that game. Shows you it doesn't really happen too often to Jonathon. He usually finishes off these kind of matches. His will to win is just phenomenal.
Yes, left, 6-0.
So the crowd starting to spur on Jonathon Power. I don't think the crowd appreciated that conduct stroke.
And out, 7-6.
Well, that's quite a cheap point for David Palmer. Jonathon Power just shoveling it out of the court. Takes him to 7-6. Now this is the important area in this game. This is where traditionally David Palmer is just so good. Keeps his concentration, keeps hitting the right shot, puts the ball in the right place. Doesn't try anything too fancy. Oh, after saying that, commentator's curse. Whacks the ball into the middle of the tin.
It looks like it's contagious.
Where did that come from?
Palmer hitting the tin.
Oh, and Jonathon Power does exactly the same. This is surprising.
Now, would you blame nerves, perhaps, or fatigue?
I think
more?
both players realise that this is a make or break time, and if one player gets a quick 2 or 3 point cushion on the other one, then it's going to be pretty hard for them to come back. So they're maybe trying to get a couple of cheap winners. Obviously, both of them are quite fatigued at the end of this match and this tournament. So a couple of cheap points would be very, very helpful right now.
So after over an hour of squash.
Oh, that's a huge point. Jonathon Power realising that was an enormous miss from David Palmer. Takes him to 9-8. Oh, ball just staying in.
Textbook squash from both players.
David Palmer getting the loose ball, whacking it into the space into the backhand corner. That was a great rally. I actually noticed in that rally he really followed through the ball. He hit the ball with more conviction. I think he really was a bit annoyed with himself at having hit a couple of tins in the last 3 or 4 rallies, and he really tightened up there.
Especially after not having hit any over a period of 2 games.
That's right. He's just hitting the ball a little bit harder as well. Jonathon Power as well.
Well, after well over an hour of squash, we are at 9-all in the 5th game. A mini game to 6 points, basically. We'll sum up this match.
Well, that's right. Neither player given an inch right now. Great interception. Well, the referee makes another controversial decision. Doesn't seem to be much consistency with these decisions, Charles.
And that is probably what hurts the most, is that the call will vary, even though the situation is the same as something they may have lived in the second or third games.
Absolutely, yeah.
Please. You get that easy.
Well, again, I don't agree with that.
How many laps do I get? How many?
Careful, Mr. Power. He's had a conduct warning for
Well, the
talking.
thing about it is I remember a similar situation actually where David Palmer dragged Jonathon into the front court and then had a length, and he did get a let. Exactly what Jonathon did there. Showed him the drop shot and then whacked it to the back. Ordinarily that's not a lead, but you got to be consistent with your previous decisions. These guys are moving and hitting the ball like this is the start of the first game. Oh, what a... It's just a youthful error.
Little mental lapse from Palmer.
I don't know what happened there. He's obviously... He's looking a bit pale. He's putting everything into this match.
Tight ball.
Oh! David Palmer does not want to run for the ball. He's trying to chop off everything on the volley.
It's not as quick as he was at the beginning of this match. Towel crew will step up, mop up the sweat. You see at the start of each game, Martin, there's about 5 towel boys on the court mopping up the drops of sweat just to show how hard these two are working out there.
Oh, this is phenomenal work. This is mentally and physically draining.
Crowd loves it. They can feel it. You can cut the tension with a knife.
But these guys thrive on it. This is what they train for. It's this kind of situation that you want. This is the last few points in a major tournament.
Great lob, gives an opportunity.
What a shot. Great shot by Jonathon Power, holding the ball to the last second. He felt David Palmer on his left shoulder. He felt he was going for the drop shot, and he just flicked at the last moment. And David Palmer's in trouble now.
Oh,
He's
yes.
really got to step up.
Power's in a great position.
Well, anyone that doesn't think Jonathon Power is fit just needs to look at this match. David Palmer is probably one of the best athletes in the world given any sport, and Jonathon Power is managing to match him and is in better shape than him at this particular time.
Chopper.
Oh, that's a
opens up the
phenomenal
ball.
drop shot. This is a great play by Power. David Palmer hanging in. And clips the top of the tin. The crowd go wild. They can sense a Canadian victory here in Toronto.
13-9, 2 points away from a championship for Power.
These guys are going to take weeks to recover from this sort of match.
What composure from Jonathon Power, though, in the last 3-4 points. Real professionalism shining through.
It got to 9-all. It could have been anyone's game, and Jonathon Power is the man that's had the composure and the fitness to see out this match. Not done yet, right enough. 13-9 up in the 5th game. David Palmer looking pretty ragged.
Huffing and puffing.
It'd be hard pushed to bet against Power right now.
And Power has the confidence. Certainly played well over the past 4 points.
Oh, that was an incredible return from Palmer. Incredible wrist strength to get across court, but that loose ball, just a let. Play it again, guys. Well, the crowd really getting behind Jonathon right now. Wasn't a winner, really.
Quite a call. Ball was popping
Ball
out.
jumped up. But Jonathon Power created the interference. He's got to pay a penalty for it.
Still has the 3-point cushion. Now, what's going through your mind if you're Palmer? Little chop shot has come through for John Power all night long.
That, he took it from behind him, flicked it cross court. Oh, phenomenal shot.
And I guess if you're Mr. Palmer, what's going through your mind is that it's championship point.
Maybe he's thinking about a warm beach in Australia when he goes back home. That's what he's thinking about.
It'll certainly be a well-deserved break after an effort like this tonight.
No, I mean, all that you think about in stages like this is you just think about running to the ball, hitting the ball. You're competing for every single moment, every single bounce of the ball. You could be 14-1 down in this fifth game and you'd still do that. Let's see if Jonathon can finish it off on the first try. David Palmer keeping the ball tight to the wall though. Here's a chance. And David Palmer keeping his composure. Bringing it back, 11-14. 3 more match points for Jonathon Power. Championship points.
Power knows he's in the best of the two situations.
Well, this is getting tight. He is going to be a happy man if he can get off here with a victory. This is going all the way to the wire.
The crowd yelling their encouragements.
David Palmer stretching, shaking his legs. I think he's going to need a couple of massages after this match.
Get the kinks out.
Okay, third match point for Jonathon Power, been spurred on by the crowd.
Listen to this enthusiasm. BCE Place is shaking.
Well, David Palmer's found a renewed vigour, just really hitting the ball to the back of the court. With great penetration. Why couldn't he do this at 9-0? Oh, I thought he found the nick there. Oh, and he gets it up, and Power counter drop. Picks the ball up, floats the ball above the 10.
There he is, the Canadian Classic champion. No lead is the call.
What a performance.
A real battle, Martin. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jonathon. Thank you, David Palmer. Great duel. Congratulations to the Canadian.
And now the player whom we would guess you were all favoring throughout the evening. Canada's #1 and our 2003 Pace Canadian Classic champion, Jonathon Power.
I'd like to take a minute to thank a few people. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Pace Credit Union coming to the forefront here and taking the chance and sponsoring a great event like this. It's been going on this is the 4th year, and it's a fantastic venue and a fantastic city for squash, and I hope this is the beginning of a good relationship with the Event Engine and the PSA and Pace Credit Union. Thanks very much to them. supportive, and thanks for coming out and pushing me through those last tough points. I needed that, believe me. And thanks so much to all the other patrons, my sponsors Dunlop and the Cambridge Group, and Event Engine, of course, for putting this on again and keeping the circuit as thriving as it is. Thanks very much to John and his team. So thanks all of you, and come back next year because it's going to be just as exciting. Thanks a lot.